Okay, fine, I will do this, but only if we do it my way, which means there's gonna be gold, there's gonna be glitter, there's gonna be plants. You can't see it, but there's a candle in a swan. My way. There'll be no gimmicks, there'll be no shocked faces in thumbnails. I'm not playing to the algorithm, I'm just gonna be myself as I wish that I had been over the past 5 years. Whew. So I wanna tell you how I started my business in Canada, but first, we're gonna need a cocktail. Yes, that's so good. So before we get deep into the business of me telling you how I launched my social media and cocktail making business, I actually did have a bit of an idea I wanted to run by you. I know that a lot of you feel very pro me, which is great, even though I am clearly a bit of a crazy lady. I was wondering if I launched something wherein you could have a cocktail class led by me, and then we could sit down and have a chat over a cocktail afterwards. It could be like one-on-one or one with a small group on Zoom. I could send you a list of the ingredients. Like, would there be any interest in that? Because if there was, I'd be kind of down to do it. So let me know. There's a thought that I just had, but let me know in the comment section below. Also, thank you to those of you who signed up to my newsletter last week. I've got a newsletter going out tomorrow that's actually about YouTube and my social media / online reputation. If you're not signed up and that's something that you would like, you kind of do have to be an adult to sign up because there's cocktails in it and it's thoughts from somebody my age. I will leave the link in the description box below. All right, so a lot of you knew me from a YouTube channel that I used to work at. Some of you have found me independently from YouTube. Some of you know me from Instagram. I basically just want to explain what I do for a living and how I got there. So I moved to Canada in 2015, so nearly 5.5 years ago now. And in that time, I've gone from being sort of a YouTuber to an Instagrammer to a person that runs my own business that predominantly focuses on cocktails and lifestyle in Toronto. When I first arrived in Toronto, I started writing for a magazine called the Toronto Guardian, which was fantastic, just like a little side hustle type thing that really introduced me into society. It sounds like Bridgerton, but introduced me into the food scene of the city. So I managed to grow like a little bit of a following independently because I hadn't got my job on YouTube yet, of people in the city who would follow me because they would see me at a lot of food and drink events. And I still have a really good relationship with the Toronto Guardian and still every now and then do stuff for them. But over the time, like that was developing on its own, I managed to basically associate myself as me with the food and drink scene of the city, and people followed me on Instagram for that reason. Then I got the job on YouTube, which was kind of like a separate thing evolving in a separate area, and people got to know my personality and a lot of people found me that way. So I kind of had two different audience strands, a group of people in Toronto that really knew me from my love of food and drink, and then a group of people from the internet who really liked my storytelling ability. In the year before I quit my job, I knew that I wanted to leave, but didn't want to work for somebody else again. So was thinking, okay, well, as my Instagram following is quite big and I'm quite submerged in the food and drink culture of the city outside of my job, perhaps there would be opportunity for me to turn this into something that could make me a living. So I hustled really hard in 2019. I was going to events almost every night. So I was going to the film studio and doing my full-time day job, which was working on the channel. But in the evening, I was going to things that I was invited to, cocktail and food events across the city. And they weren't paid things at the time, but I was really like getting my face out there and making connections. In the run up to me quitting my job, I was getting up at 5 in the morning and sending emails to people that I'd met the night before, or new contacts, hoping to get on their press list and PR lists. So when they would send out things, I would get them and I'd sort of post about them on my Instagram, and made a lot of really great connections that way. I was planning on quitting my job at the end of 2019, but in the end, I just took the jump and got out of that. And yeah, it was really scary because I hadn't properly set up my Instagram as a thing that could make me money yet. But what I did was I'd saved around 3 months' wages, which some would say isn't enough, but I like to bet on myself. And I'd organised 3 weeks of work with Toronto Cocktail Week as a freelancer. So I was taking over their Instagram and covering events and taking photos of cocktails, and also providing a little bit of support on my own Instagram too. So I did that very much as a little freelance thing, running somebody else's social media, and that just about got me enough to make me feel like it was a comfortable thing to quit my job. At that time, I started getting paid advertisements on my Instagram. So I was working with companies like Victorinox and Nika Gin, and a few kind of lifestyle but more geared towards food and drink brands. But that definitely wasn't making me a full-time living. It was probably making me a quarter of a living. So the freelance social media stuff for other people was really helpful. When Toronto Cocktail Week finished, I was then like, oh shit, what do I do now? I'd made so many connections over the 3 weeks that I'd worked on that project. So I was still getting up at 5 a.m. and emailing, really hoping to get sponsorships, really hoping to be able to get more clients where I could help them with their social media. And in the end, randomly, I ended up getting a job at a winter festival as a queen, which was a total step in a different direction, but I basically just needed to cover my money for over Christmas period, and I was getting a few sponsorships, but I didn't really have a lot going on. So I randomly was an ice queen at a winter festival, and I say random, like I did a theatre degree and a journalism postgrad, and actually my first ever full-time job was as a queen at a toy shop in London, so it was very weird to be back again. That being said, it actually paid really well, and it was something that happened over the evening time, so actually it left me my days to work on growing my Instagram business and reach out to more people to see if they needed social media help themselves. As the new year came in, this was January 2020, we had no idea, did we? I took a little writing job as well. The winter festival had finished and I wanted something that for sure would pay my rent. So I did a writing job for a guy in Spain that I ended up actually doing for about 5 months because it was good, and I eventually let it go when my business went up, but we'll get there. Surprisingly, I was kind of doing all right in January, February. There were still events, perhaps it's a cheaper time of year for people to put on events, and I was picking up some clients who would have me come and cover their events for them on their social media for the evening, and that was going quite well, and I was still getting a few brand sponsorships on my own Instagram as well. And crucially, at this time, some of the audience that I'd found from the YouTube channel started to drop away. So I was seeing a bit of a drop in my Instagram numbers, but actually this was a really good thing because it meant that people who weren't engaged in what I was doing in my next step were sort of dropping off, and I was gaining people who were interested. So while I think a lot of people would feel concerned about losing followers, for me it was actually a good clear out. For me it's I'd rather have a smaller number but have them be totally engaged than have a really large number and then wonder why no one's interested in what I'm doing. Then the pandemic came. I need to pause to take a drink. That was a time, wasn't it? So the pandemic struck, and my business at that point was totally split between me writing for the guy in Spain, which paid my rent, taking over other people's social medias for events, and getting brand sponsorships for myself. The two social media aspects were always in the food and drink space. But obviously the pandemic totally crippled the food and drink industry. All events were cancelled and brands pulled their money from advertisements that hadn't taken place yet because they didn't know what was going to happen. So I think I lost $8,000 in a day of planned work, which for me, as a person who had just started out, to say I cried, I think would be definitely an understatement. I was panicking, but I know that I'm very resourceful, and luckily I still had the job with the guy in Spain, which I knew would pay my rent, so I wasn't at a total loss, and I'd never had to dip into my emergency 3-month wages fund yet because I just about been making it work. So after having a good old cry, I looked around at what I had, and I'd been given a lot of promotional alcohol. Like I said, I work with food and drink brands, and they're always giving you, when you're in that field, promotional bottles of things. And obviously bars were closed, and I love going drinking in bars in Toronto. The cocktail culture and scene here is one of my favorite things. The restaurant scene is one of my favorite things too. And I was devastated that that was no longer happening. So I looked around at my home bar and thought, do you know what? I'm gonna try and make a few cocktails myself, and I'll film it because that's what I do. And surprisingly, they ended up getting loads of views. I think the first Instagram IGTV video I made of me making cocktails got like 26,000 views or something. And because they started doing so well, I then managed to get brands to pay me to place their alcohol in those videos. And I had worked with brands before, but it was more in like a sort of go to this bar capacity. So yeah, that was really great. Like I was getting sponsorships with a lot of big brands that could no longer do activations across the city or events like they would have put their marketing budget into, and things started to get a lot better. By the summer, I was actually able to be making, I don't know, like half, 3/4 of a full-time living just from that. Just from making cocktail videos. So I was able to stop the writing job, and it was really nice, but it like wasn't obviously totally in the direction that I wanted to travel, which was the food, drink and lifestyle space on Instagram. So I said goodbye to that, which for the direction of my business was good. And it was around that time that I had to register for HST. I'll talk about business registrations at the end, I think, if not it gets very jumbled. But that was when that happened. And then one of the brands that I'd been working with as an influencer wanted to hire me to run their social media for them, which was great. They were my first like ongoing social media client where I worked on their social media, if that makes sense. I also managed to pick up another one, and so that made up the shortcomings that I had from just doing stuff as an influencer. So at that point, my business was me making money on Instagram through brand sponsorships, and me making money as a social media expert working with brands to help them develop their social media presence. And that is kind of where I'm still at now. A few things happened over the year though. I really managed to develop my storytelling ability on Instagram. The videos I made at the very beginning, while they were getting a lot of views, weren't as visually interesting as some of the things that I'm making on Instagram today. I'm actually having loads of fun with it, and honestly, if you can be having fun with your job and your work, like that's half the battle won, really. I learned a lot of camera techniques, I've got more lighting, I've upped my equipment game. I've tried to invest as much back into my business as is possible. Things were super crazy over Christmas because that's the time that everyone wants to promote alcohol, so that's good. But at the same time as doing all of that last year, I also managed to write a book, which I've told you about in the last video, and I'm looking for a publisher now to help me get that out. Now the book is part memoir, part social media critique, which is something I've had a lot of experience in because obviously I worked for you on a YouTube channel for 4 years, and now I work exclusively on Instagram. So that's something I'm looking forward to getting out there in the world, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I hadn't have been working for myself, because I'd taken the good discipline of getting up at 5 a.m. and sort of continued to apply it, and working for myself has really allowed me to work to the beat of my own energy bursts. I'm not a very good 9-to-5 person at all. I have a few really good creative hours in the morning, a few in the afternoon, and then a couple in the evening, but like in between that I like to like chill and do my own thing, or go for walks, or get stimulated and inspired. So really being my own boss and being able to work to my own energy flow has been great, really great. And so yeah, I've written a book. What an overachiever. Honestly, like being able to march to the beat of your own drum and work to your own rhythm is premium. So I ended the year having made 20% more money than I would have done if I'd stayed in my full-time job, which I think for year one in a pandemic is pretty good. I was never super earning a whole load in the first place, so it's not like I'm balling. And like I said, I've really tried to invest as much back in my business as possible, but to know that I walked away and am better off, honestly, is extremely validating for me, and I get to be my own boss. At the moment, I don't have enough money to be able to employ anyone. I'm a reasonably long way off that, but I hope if things keep improving that maybe next year or the year after I might be able to pay someone part-time to do my admin for me, because I am absolutely not good at doing. I hate admin. I just want to do all the creative stuff and none of the, you know, clerical stuff. So that's where I'm at. Actually, registering a business was reasonably easy. There are some forums online that talk you through doing that with the Canadian, I guess, like government. So I registered my business under Miss Rebecca J, which is my Instagram name. And then, like I said, halfway in the year, maybe entering Q3, business jargon, I had to register for HST, which is like if you earn over $30,000, you have to, and you work in goods and services, you have to collect a certain tax to give to the government, which is a whole fun game. Like I said, I'm not good at admin, and tax season is coming up, which is giving me some anxiety. I'll let you know what happens after I file my taxes for the first time, because like I've had to save so much money because I don't know exactly what I'm gonna be paying in tax. So hopefully I'll let you know all about that. So yeah, I would say any advice for somebody thinking of setting up their own business is like put in some groundwork first. But honestly, my space wasn't totally ready for me to make the jump when I did. I just made the jump because I felt like it was the time and I had to. And I think sometimes you can get analysis paralysis when you think that you want to do something and then you're like really overthinking it. And sometimes my advice is just to do it and figure it out. Honestly, I never thought that I'd be a person to talk business ever, because I am a moon gazer and a real wafty cloud of a person. But honestly, if I can do it, you can do it. And my advice to anyone who's thinking about doing it is like, just take the jump, because I think a lot of people get really beholden to things being successful immediately, and that's just not how things work. Like I said at the very beginning, I was doing freelance stuff like working as a queen or doing a writing project, which weren't totally in the direction of my business, but kept things going for me. And you know, if you ever have a quiet month or a quiet stretch, there's no stopping you taking on extra freelance work or, you know, working part-time. I would have done that, and perhaps maybe one day I will, if it means keeping Miss Rebecca J alive. You've got to bend to what's happening, and there's no shame in saying, okay, well, this isn't working now, but what can I do to get it to work? Does that make sense? I really hope this video hasn't been boring, because I get a lot of questions about what exactly I'm up to these days, and yeah, I wanted to explain, and hopefully that did. Just like a quick sneak peek of what my life is like as a drinks Instagrammer and influencer. I've just been given a marketing box actually for an event, a virtual event that I'm doing this evening. I thought I'd show you what's in it so you can see what weird influencer life is like. You can't even see in that at all, hold on. Okay, so I'm doing an event with Fireball Whiskey this evening. This is so big, oh my god, my face. So I got given like a little kit for the event. It's got a bunch of Fireball whiskies, some Angostura, like basically cocktail things, but also some cookies that are made with Fireball. I guess we're going to be playing some games because there's a box of dares, and this is my invitation to the event. So that'll be something that I'm covering on my Instagram this evening. I probably get mail outs like that once a week or so, and I guess for me the learning curve has been, what do I use to put on stories? What do I post on my main feed? What feeds do I collect here and there? But yeah, there's a good example of a marketing box. All right, I'm gonna wrap up this video. Do let me know what you think to my idea of doing private cocktail Zooms. The only thing is, I just like don't want to accidentally meet some creeps, because I'm quite serious about it being a business thing. Like, I'll teach you how to make a cocktail, then we'll sit down and have a chat with the cocktail, and it'd be like a 30-minute thing. I don't know, I feel like that could be a fun direction to go in. I'll keep you updated on my book. I won't talk business every week, because to me, I guess it's interesting to me because I'm living it, but maybe not interesting to you at all. Let me know what you do want to see though, because like I said, we're doing this my way. I don't want there to be gimmicks. I don't want to worry about suiting the algorithm. Honestly, I just want to like have drinks, be a good human, talk to you guys and be myself. That's primarily my goal. So please do leave a thumbs up on this video. Share it if you think someone's going to find it interesting, that'd be great. And subscribe to my newsletter if you're interested in cocktails and musings from a weirdo like me. Cheers, have a lovely evening. I don't know what time of day you're watching this. It's just good. Bye.